Boa noite a todos. Sejam muito bem-vindos ao segundo dia do evento First GSIA International Webinar, The Future of Agribusiness. Hoje, o GSIA, Grupo Colaborativo à Internacionalização Agro, traz a vocês a nossa segunda palestra, intitulada Job Market Perspectives on the Agri-Science Future. Mercado de trabalho e o futuro na agricultura, a qual será ministrada pelo professor José Maria Vilela, do Departamento de Agricultura da Universidade Federal de Lavras. Lembramos que o evento acontece com apoio e parceria da Universidade Federal de Lavras, da VMLI Escola de Inglês, na qual ontem foi sorteada uma bolsa de 50% para estudar na escola, e a sortuda foi a Isabela. Acontece também com o apoio da Escola de Aviação Aeroclube de Lavras e da Mycoff Lavras, Mycoff Lab, consultoria pós-colheita e qualidade de café. Hoje, inclusive, ao final do nosso evento, também teremos o sorteio de 3 vagas para um voo panorâmico pela cidade de Lavras. O prêmio é oferecido pelo nosso parceiro, a Escola de Aviação Aeroclube de Lavras. Para concorrerem ao nosso sorteio, assinem a lista de presença que está passando no chat ao lado. E lembrando que os prêmios somente serão entregues para quem estiver presente na hora do sorteio. Pedimos a todos os presentes que nos sigam no Instagram, @gciaufla, e se inscrevam aqui no nosso canal, deixando também o seu like no nosso vídeo. Lembramos também que as perguntas podem ser feitas no chat e ao final da palestra elas serão direcionadas ao palestrante. Dito isso, pessoal, e para darmos início às nossas atividades de hoje, gostaria então de convidar o nosso palestrante, professor José Maria Vilela, e passar a palavra para o nosso moderador dessa noite, o integrante do GSIA, Alexandre Dias.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to the second day of the first GSIA International Webinar, The Future of Agribusiness. My name is Alexandre, and currently I am a member of GSIA. And today I will be the moderator of this lecture, Job Market Perspective on the Agribusiness, presented by the Professor José Maria. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for enjoying us today. It is one great pleasure for us and also motivate us to continue this kind of activity. And now I would like to introduce Professor José Maria. Good evening, Professor.
Good evening, Alexandre. Good evening, everyone. Thanks. First of all, thanks for the invitation. It was a really pleasure for me to be with you today. Thank you very much, Alexandre.
Thanks, Professor, for to have you in here and share your knowledge with us. Before you start, I would like to talk about your academic and professional background. Professor José Maria Vilela Padua has one BS in agronomy and took one master and PhD degree in genetics and plant breeding program at Federal University of Lavras. He has experience in field of agronomy with emphasis in genetics and plant breeding, work mainly in autumn and winter crops, beans, corn, tobacco, and soybeans. He works in soybean breeding at Fundação Mato Grosso, also as a scientific research on tobacco breeding at Souza Cruz Company. Nowadays, he is professor in the Department of Agriculture at Federal University of Lavras. Professor, the screen is belong to you. Have a great presentation. Best of luck.
Thanks again, Alexandre. Thanks all the members of GSIA. Again, was a very great for me. I'm very honorable to be here with you today to share a little bit of this presentation. First, it was very difficult for me to prepare this presentation, and I really want to share with you the knowledge and try to comply with the objectives. Everything that I'm gonna say today, it's part of my experience. So it's not a completely true what I'm gonna say, and I want you to take all the good messages from this presentation and discuss what you guys don't agree with me. Maybe you have some suggestions. So we're gonna have a time afterwards, after the presentation, so we can talk a little bit longer about this presentation. Also, it's a great pleasure for me to talk after Professor Xiaofun because I have the chance to be at Top Ohio program. So when I was a bachelor undergraduate student uh, from agronomy, I went to USA and spent 7 months over there through this program, and it was a very very good experience for me at that time. So again, thanks Xiaofun, and it was a really honor to see your presentation last night. Today I will speak mostly in the beginning. Um, it's kind of similar from what Professor Chalfun said yesterday. So we are kind of aligned in terms of what it's the agriculture for the future. So uh, having said that, I will start my presentation. The title is Market Perspectives on the Agri-Science Future. And just to start the presentation, whenever I start to think what I'm going to say to those guys about this specific thing, I start to think about is agriculture a sector that is a good employer? That's the first question that came to my mind. Because whenever we look at the history behind what happened to the population, we see a migration from countryside to the cities. So the population nowadays, on average, on the world average, we have more or less 85% of the population in cities. So it remains 15% of the population in the countryside. Whenever we take a look in Brazil, the numbers are even bigger. We have 87% of the population living in the cities. So this number, at least for us, is a kind of challenge. But we're going to try to answer that question in a few slides ahead, to be honest, to see what's going to happen, especially in the terms or in the conditions of our country, of Brazil. But for us, especially for you guys, to be honest, that are doing your bachelor's or master's or PhD, whatever, we need to take a look in the future. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen in the future? What are the perspectives in the future about the job market for agriculture itself? So we have a very difficult challenge to meet. By 2050, by 2050, we're going to have more than 9.7 billion people in the world. So we're going to need to produce even more food that we produce today. So from the perspectives that we have in terms of global production, we're going to need to increase the production of grains, of feed, of food. And here we can see at least two different messages with this figure here. The first one that we can see on red, on the graph, the line on red, that we're going to need to increase much more meat, protein, than wheat or rice. What that means? That means that it's not the amount, it's not the quantity of food that we need to increase. The population has more money, so the population is looking for better products. It means that we're going to need to produce even more meat. And the second point here, these authors are calling that is not longer the green revolution anymore. We are going through this digital or agriculture 4.0, but we are changing to the golden revolution. We will need to keep increasing the production, but we have a big challenge, as I said. We cannot grow longer. We cannot have higher areas. We cannot grow too much area. So we need to keep increase the yield, the productivity, so we can keep increasing the production with sustainability in a sustainable way. But we need to start to think about the wholes of the countries in the future. So whenever we take a look in the main countries around the world, If you think about US or China, what's the whole of China, for example? China is a country that it's moved by industries. US has industries, but also has some production of food, of grains. And what's the function of Brazil in this scenario, in the present and in the future? The function of Brazil is to produce food, is to produce feed, you know. So Brazil, as many people say, is the barn of the world, and it's going to be even more a reality in the near future. So whenever we take a look in the numbers, as we can see here, agriculture represents 25% of the internal product from Brazil. If we take a look on the numbers back in 2020, what's the size of the internal product from Brazil? We had 7.4 trillion dollars. So it's a big market here in Brazil. And 25%, more than 2 trillions, came from agriculture sector. Remember that I said that 85% of the population in Brazil lives in cities. So take a look on this number here. 33% on average of the jobs in Brazil are linked to the agriculture sector. So that means that doesn't means that a person or people living in cities cannot work in agriculture. So again, our country, it's a ag country, and 50% of the exports that Brazil makes, that Brazil does, comes from also from agriculture. Sorry. If we take a look at, specifically on the product, soybeans, we are the number one in production. We took the position from US 2 years ago, and we are the number one in terms of exports. If we take a look on coffee, on orange juice, we are also the number one in production and export. So we can see easily the whole of Brazil in terms of agriculture. But if we take a look, even back on the history, we see the numbers that we increased a lot, the production. We went back in the 70s from 50 million tons to nowadays more than 250 million tons. So we increased more than 300%, and we just increased 10,000 million hectares. It means that it's 20 to 25% of the area. So we, again, as we saw, whenever we took a look on the world average, here in Brazil, we were very, very efficient in terms of producing more. So we increase a lot the yield, the productivity of the grains in our country. But what we are going to face in the near future? This is also a good question for us to better understand what's going to be the scenario for agriculture in Brazil and around the world. We have perspective just in the year or in the crop 21-22 to produce close to 300 million tons. So this number that we are seeing here on the perspective in 2029 by 2030 to have almost on 320 million tons or even 307 million tons. Today or the next crop, we are expecting to reach the number of 300 million tons. So it's a big number. It's a big number. If we take a look back on 1920 here, we produced 250. So it's a big increase. And look at the right side of this slide here, as we told before, and again I will repeat that, we will not grow in terms of area. So we will need to keep increasing the yield, the productivity of our crops, not only in the world, but also, and much more for us, with much more honor, in Brazil, we need to keep increasing this yield. And the question that arises after saying that is, How can we do that? How can we solve that problem? How can we overcome that challenge? This is one of the biggest and most discussed questions around the world and also here in Brazil. And I'm pretty sure that we're gonna go through the funnel of new technologies. So starting by science, going through research, then we're gonna have innovation in all this process until we're gonna have at the end of the funnel the new technologies. And we have many new technologies in agriculture. So we have not only tools, we have also approaches, methodologies. So we have many things here. We can discuss here for a day at least about these new technologies that are starting, that are being developed, that are already in place in some farmers, in some regions here in Brazil. We need to think broader because here in Brazil we have different, as we have now around the world, we have different areas from different scales of farmers. So we have big farmers, medium-sized farmers, small-scale farmers, and we need to think how to address. This is one of the challenges that we're gonna face, but this is not the key points to discuss here. I want to say some specific examples here. I just with this figure here, we can see at least four pillars of these new technologies here. The first one, it's about biologicals, and we are seeing that a lot. So here we have gene editing, for example. We have some very interesting science and technologies for soil sciences. Now, here in Brazil, we developed a mechanism that we can work with phosphorus in the system. That's a product called biomafos that it's quite interesting. But I want to highlight one point here. It's about biopesticides. I don't know if you heard about the RNA interference. This is a quite interesting technology here. I try to exemplify that for you. RNA technology, it's used in some transgenic crops that we have. And this is a quite interesting stuff here because it's very sustainable. I'm going to try to explain here. RNA interference is going to work just for a specific plague, specific pathogen. So it's very sustainable. We're going to be very direct to the point of working just with those specific topic, those specific disease. And it's very, as I said, it's a very clean technology because we're gonna not hurt anything, our environment. So we can say that it's a very friendly from our environment. So this is a kind that I want to show just to highlight the importance of knowing about new technologies. On the second pillar here, and we are seeing each time we are seeing more and more, it's about imaging sensors. So we are seeing a lot of drones, not only used for research specifically, but also going to the market. We have nowadays here at UFLA Professor Adão that it's working a lot with this kind of new technology. To be honest, he's working with almost all of that. On the third pillar here, we have something quite interesting that it's about automation, it's about robotics. So we are seeing a lot of machines, tractors, even we can make association here whenever we take a look in some people talking about this automation, they are calling the farmers or the farm of the future as a ghost farm because we will not need anymore so many people working. So a lot of robots and automation. So we can see tractors without a person to drive it. So many things coming in terms of automation. And the fourth pillar here, it's about the digitalization. It's a very broad term as well, digital and digitalization, together with big data here. So we have many points here in terms of bringing everything together, get this analysis, get numbers. And at the center here, we have also one of the key pillars here. It's about how can we connect everything. This is one of the biggest points to move forward. How can we connect everything here to have better decision making process, for example? Well, for us to get here to this more digital agriculture, we need to tell a history here. Probably many of you know it very well. We came from a era that we have just families working on agriculture just to feed themselves, to produce food for themselves. So we used to have very large families working, producing different kind of crops, different kind of foods. Then this was called the agriculture 1.0. Then when we started the green revolution here, we start to bring the tractors and all the pillars of the green revolution, the genetics, the fertilizers. So we start to have this agriculture 2.0, 2.0. Then whenever we start to use the GPS, it's a big mark whenever we talk about this evolution. We go through this agriculture 3.0, and then when we start the era of the smart, so the digital, the images, and all this stuff, we go through this agriculture 4.0. And we are in the era of smart everything. So here, just to summarize, if you say smart, you're gonna cover at least 50% of the answer. So we are in the era of smart everything. Uh, what's gonna happen whenever we take a look on that? What's gonna happen? So we're gonna completely have an innovation in almost all process and resources that we are using on agriculture. But again, maybe some of you can think about the size farmers, small scale farmers, mid-sized farmers. How is gonna be the really adoption of those technologies? We don't know for sure, but I'm going to exemplify here for you one technology that it's very easily to adopt, that it's already being used for small scale farms, and also it's an offline technology. So if you take a look on the numbers of Brazil, and many of you may already saw those numbers, we have more than 1,500 ag tech companies here in Brazil. So probably, again, if we do a benchmarking with the other sectors here, we can take a look at least, and what's the reference whenever we take a look and think about innovation, ag techs, not only ag techs, but startups in terms of the world. So the first point here, the first location that came to my mind, it's about the Silicon Valley. This is the where we just take a look in everything, and there are many things being reported from Silicon Valley. But back to our reality here in Brazil, what can we think about these startups, these ag techs, all this innovation process? Where is it in Brazil? This is the question. Where is it located? Do we have a center like that? Yes, we have, and it's based in Piracicaba. It's inside Exalc. So we have the reference in terms of agtechs here in Brazil, it's Piracicaba. But here at UFLA as well, we have some points to mention. Let's point here, for example, the Embrapi, that it's a company placed inside UFLA. We have Agência Zeta, and we have many things in terms of innovation. But the point of reference in Brazil, it's Piracicaba. And just to point here as well, this is one very interesting stuff as well, because I was taking a look on LinkedIn and Facebook, and this year we have two big events here in Brazil about this 5G technology. And both of them, we saw the Ministry of Agriculture in both events. So I start to think maybe this is something that is really interesting for the agriculture. And I start to take a look on what's 5G because I don't know what's 5G. I don't know even what's 4G. But whenever we take a look, especially in some papers that are linked to agriculture, we can see at least three key pillars for the reason why 5G is so important for agriculture. So basically, the number one, it's about connectivity. We can have many more things connected around the 5G. The second point, it's about the speed itself of the connectivity. And the third one, it's about the gaps of connection. So the losses of the connection, it's much more, it's smaller whenever we compare with 4G. So it seems that it's really a big advantage for agriculture to have this. It's not only for agriculture, but for agriculture that we are talking tonight here. It's a very key pillar for us to move forward and to have this higher adoption of those new technologies. As I said, I just want here to exemplify because we think a lot again. The big challenge it's about connectivity and it's about the size of the farmer. And I thought maybe I can show you guys one example of the technology that doesn't necessarily need to be connected and doesn't necessarily need to be in a big farmer, for example. So back 3 years ago in time, we had this project on Souza Cruz that is just a simple point that the farmer needs to sign every document from Souza Cruz. So it's a quite simple way, it's a quite simple software that the farmer can sign the documents through your cell phone and doesn't necessarily need to be connected. It's just a sign. Whenever he has a connection to the internet, it's gonna transfer it for the company. So it's a small change. It's a small technology if we think, but make a big difference for the company, make a big difference in terms of saving money, saving time from the people, from the workers. So it's a big change for specifically for the company itself. But okay, we talked a little bit about the agriculture. So the second big bullet point about this presentation, it's about the labor perspective itself. So the question is, are we in a changing labor perspective? Because if we take a look that we are bringing a lot of different technologies to the agriculture, are we prepared? Are we in a changing labor perspective for that? And if we take a look broader, we see in different sectors that we are in one of the most transformational times in human history. A lot of different people say that, you know. But the point here is, again, I talked about ghost farm, a lot of digitalization, and what is the role of the agronomist itself? What's the role of all the people involved with agriculture itself? If we take a look broader as well, we can see that 60% of the jobs can have some automation. 60% of the jobs around the world can have some automation, but just less than 5% of the jobs can be completely automated. So think about that difference. 60% can have some automation, and just 5% of the jobs will be completely automated. But we're going to discuss further that question. And also, we need to take a look on the pandemic itself. The pandemic, we can have a comparison here in Brazil. Whenever we had the president Juscelino Kubitschek, he said at that time 50 years in 5. And the changes that the pandemic time brought to us is that we accelerate, we move it faster 5 years to 5 months, 5 years to 1 year. So everything now it's in a faster way. It's moving in a faster way. So the adoption of technologies, this connectivity, all this digital, it's going faster and faster. So that idea of having those curves of maturity, the curve of maturity of ideas just reduced a lot. So we need to be prepared to this new technology. We need to be much more prepared for the future. And there are many, many points that we could discuss about the pandemic itself, about the meetings. We don't need to have big trips anymore. We can do meetings by Google, by whatever. So that there are many, many things that came from pandemics that will remain, that will continue. But there are others that is gonna be overcome, and we're gonna be back from what we did before the pandemics. What about agriculture? So if we are changing a lot, we are bringing automation. So what about agriculture itself? Are we going to be replaced for robots are going to be replaced, totally replaced? And this is a quite interesting graph as well here. So if you take a look on this graph, see here the sector. So we have health, we have scientific and technicals, and on the bottom here we have manufacturing. So what that means for us here, the roles or the functions or the sectors, health and scientific and technical, they will grow. Look, this is it's a quite interesting point. So it means that the technical side will increase instead of decreasing, as we are seeing here in transportation, in public administration, defense. So this is a very interesting point for us. Let's just explore this point a little further here. If we take a look on the farm of the future, take a look on this figure, for example. We have a drone, we have a tractor without operator, so we have many, many things here, and just one person here, the person that is in charge of operating almost everything here. So what's gonna change, guys? And you need to take that message away, take that message home, at least that message. The roles, the functions, the jobs that will remain, they will have much more value that we have today. Could you understand what I'm saying? So this person here, it's gonna be much more valuable for all this stuff than he is today. So the agronomist, the farmer, the guy that is taking the decision here is gonna be much more valuable for all this stuff here. So that means that you guys need to be prepared for these future demands. It's not only about, this is just one point here to exemplify, but it's not only about the farm itself, but it's inside the companies as well. Even for me, I mean, the public sector, it's moving slower, but the public sector at the time, they're going to need to move as well. And just again to exemplify for you and for those of who doesn't who doesn't agree with what I'm saying here, this is a very known case from changing. It is not specific for job changing, but it's for company changing. So if we take a look on the Kodak case here, for example, back in 70s and 80s and 90s, Kodak was one of the most valuable companies in terms of photos around the world. And begin of all this digitalization, these digital photos, Kodak didn't want to go through that market. And what happens in 2012? It died. So the key message for us here is we need to be We need to adapt to the new realities. We need to think ahead of the time. We cannot think that what we have until today, until now, it's good enough for guaranteeing our future. So we need to think ahead of time. And there are many, many points that we can discuss about that. So here I just summarize again in at least three skills or three capabilities here to overcome anything like that. Even if you are inside a company, you can be an entrepreneur, or if you are outside a company, you can be an entrepreneur. But you need to have at least three key skills here. Let's start from the bottom here. The first one, it's about intelligence. And specifically for this point here, what means intelligence for us is the capability of seeing a problem that are happening or that's going to happen in the future, and to have the knowledge, to have the intelligence to solve that problem. That's the definition that I want you to take for this specific point here. Also, as I said, we need to have the adaptability for change, for change that problem. And on the top and most important, it's about leadership. So take a look on that. Even for making some changes, we need to have leadership. Because if I have the idea, I want to change the world, I will be adapted to this idea. But I need people, I need a group. So I need to convince a group with leadership that we need to do that change. So this is the key idea for us to not be over, to not be, to not be in the past, to not be in the same situation as Kodak was. Well, changing a little bit, when I finished to prepare those past slides here, I came through here and I start to think, what about myself? So we can see that everything is moving, it's a kind of changing, we are going through a new work model, we're going to need new capabilities, maybe we're going to need to develop new technical skills. Also, we make association always with soft skills as well. And maybe we can think that until now we are good, thanks. But again, at the point of time like that, we need to think what's going to be our response to all of these changes. Inside a universe that we are placed, most of us are placed nowadays, what can we do to be better, to try to at least to go faster and try to develop let's say, the right capabilities at least. So I will try to answer that question as I was thinking before for this presentation here. The first point here, and again, I did a very big association here with the company itself, how the company works, and what I can bring to my life, what can I share with you that I brought to my life in these past times that I have been working. So what's important for me? And this came from a strategic planning that starts everything in a company. So first of all, we need to have a strategic thinking or strategic planning for ourselves. So what do I want for my future? Do I want just to finish my thesis? Is this my really goal for myself? Do I want to be the best student in the world? Or do I just want to have my scholarship to pay my bills at the end of the month? This is a thing, this is a very important thing that I really want you guys as well to start to think. What's important for me? And to ask that question, start, what do you want to do in the future? Where do you expect to be in 1 year, in 3 years, in 5 years' time? Where do you expect to be? Because if you know that, if you know at least because no one knows 100% for sure what is my intention in 1 year, what's my intention in 3 years. But I really, I have the direction here. I try to figure out what's gonna be my way, what's gonna what's gonna be my next move to be there. So if you start to think on that questions, if we start to build some objectives for ourselves, that there are many methodologies to build objectives. And also, guys, if you don't have that answer, if you have many doubts about that, look for a profession, look for a professional or a professor or advisor, look for help, start to build your future. Because whenever you define what's going to be your objective, you're going to need to qualify yourself and think and think a little bit. We are in agriculture, we are in agronomy courses here, and agronomy courses are very broad all around the world. Whenever you talk to anyone that it's a professor in agriculture or is a student, he's going to say it's a very broad course, you know. So you need to start to define what's going to be your priorities for you to qualify in the direction that you're going to move. So let's take a look again. Let's think about just two different points here. If I'm going to need, if I want to be a farmer or a rancher, I'm going to need to develop some skills, some qualification, very different from a researcher, for example, from a sales representative, for example. So we need to start thinking about our future, you know. And having said that, the second point, very important for me, it's about self-management. And here I just put together discipline as well. What I want to say with those two words, it's to be honest and opening my heart with you guys. You'll never have more time, more free and available time than you guys have today. So maybe you can think, in the next year I'm gonna save some time. No, this is not true. It happened with me, and it happens with more than 95% of the population. So you keep growing, you know, and each time we have less available time for ourselves. So self-management and discipline means if I need to do an English course, if I need to learn a second language, I don't have time now to develop it and to start to study English. Probably, it's gonna be your reality for the years to come. So make your time. Make your time. To be honest, don't have excuses with yourself. Don't be a liar to yourself. Create your time and develop the skills, develop the capabilities that you're gonna need to overcome the near challenge that will come in the future. All right. And the third point for me as well, that it's very crucial, it's very important as well, it's be prepared. It's as we make association with the elevator pitch here. You need to have an elevator pitch done, ready for you to use. Let's think very quickly here. Imagine if I want to work in Facebook, for example. I went to São Paulo, Guarulhos airport, and then I went to have a coffee, and you know, just a guy that seated at my side was Mark Zuckerberg, and he said to me, "Hi." So what's going to be my answer to him? What's going to be my response for that situation? I'm going to say hi and freeze, or I'm going to say, Hey Mark, how are you doing? I have a project very interesting with Facebook. Maybe we can talk a little bit. So what's going to be your response for that 30 seconds pitch? But this is too far away from our reality. Maybe you guys can think that this guy is far away. He is like on the skies. No, think about one thing here. We are in the agriculture. We have many professors around us. We have many companies around us. Each day, it's a day for ourselves to be evaluated by someone. So let's think about again. We have a partnership here between Souza Cruz and UFLA. We have many projects going on. So you guys, maybe you're gonna have a chance to be presenting a project for Souza Cruz, to do a thesis or a master for Souza Cruz. So you're gonna have a chance to open your doors for the company. You're gonna be evaluated for the people of the company. So be ready for that situation. Make your best through everything that you guys are doing. You know, even if you're gonna cook something, make the best that you can. Maybe you're gonna have, the horse passing through in your front, and you need to take that horse. So be ready. Think about creating scenarios and thinking ahead of the time. And whenever we think about digital, as I said, we have many examples here inside UFO. I just brought one here just to exemplify very quickly as well. We have this new beautiful group here that it's GEPAD, Grupo de Extensão e Pesquisa em Agricultura Digital, that it's led by Professor Adão. So what's the point here about driving the opportunities? You don't have, again, don't tell excuses for yourself again. Here, I'm just summarizing a point that we brought together and make a partnership with Professor Adão to develop new images here, for example, to identify wheat blast. Also, we have some multispectral images from drones for not only identifying wheat blast, but also for trying to predict some plant height, some yield. So there are many opportunities around us. Just take that opportunity. And this is just one very small example for you to see that we need to be thinking what are the opportunities that we have for our lives. But just to summarize what I want to say here about the skills, about the future, what are our role as a students here? Many of you are students. The first point here, solid knowledge. So we saw the picture of the guy, one person taking care of a farm. So for you guys to take care of a farm, you're gonna need to have a solid knowledge. So technical skills, and here in a holistic way, so in a broader way, thinking about not anymore thinking about wheat. I need to know about the wheat crop itself. No, you need to think about all the system. You need not only to think about agriculture, but you need to think about as well uh, about animals, about cattle, about bringing, producing proteins in your system. So this background, this solid knowledge, it's very important for us. And here we make association, and I'm calling here hotspot, to be honest. That means that it just human only traits, that it's taking together the knowledge and the critical thinking. So here I just put here a photo of Professor Magno. He is also the super agronomist as well, but here I just put the figure here just to remember about what he says. So many times we are finishing our bachelor, our PhD, our masters with a solid knowledge that he refers to glasses of knowledge. But many times we don't have the Swiss knife of thinking, the Swiss knife of reasoning. So we don't have the critical thinking. And this is part of the answer of experience that many times whenever we go through a job interview, for example, someone is going to say you don't have experience. So take a look on this specific word here. It's not only about the knowledge itself, it's about critical thinking. And to develop critical thinking, to be prepared for a job interview, start thinking and put together the word experience itself. Take a look on the dictionary, what means critical thinking and what means experience, that you're gonna try, at least you're gonna start to answer that question. And just my perspective, that's Jose perspectives, okay? Just the way of moving through all these new ag technologies here, it came from a solid background, solid knowledge, together with the critical thinking. That's for me. That's it's quite clear for us, especially in agriculture sector, that we're gonna need to develop to meet the demand, the future demands. But also, for those of you that you want to succeed in your career, I just listed here at least 4 points that are very important in my perspective again. The first one, and I will repeat that, it's about purpose, you know? So, what do I want to be in the future? What do I want to be in that specific company? Do I want to be the specialist forever, or do I want to build my career to be a manager, a senior manager, whatever? So have a purpose for your life, you know. The second point it's about global. And this for me here, if we take a look inside Brazil and around the world, it's very clear. I'll just give you an example. We are here in Brazil. Brazil, it's a egg country, as we discussed a lot, and we have the interest of many, many different companies around the world. So we have many, many multinational companies inside Brazil. So you're gonna need to have at least a second language that for us specifically for Brazil is the second most important language. It's English. And the third, you guys discussed it yesterday with Professor Xiaofun, maybe it's Chinese, it's a quite important language as well. Maybe it's Spanish. Sometimes you need to speak Spanish, especially to being here in South America. You need to speak with all the Latins, all the guys from our borders here. So the language is something very crucial. This is why we are here tonight talking and discussing these points. And the second point, and to be honest, this is something that I really expected before that inside the university would be a little better, especially talk about you guys, students. It's about collaboration. You know, you have many, many opportunities. Let's just go back from what I said before here. Take a look on the partnerships that we have the possibility to do inside the university. So take a look on GEPAD and ProTrigo. It's a collaboration. So maybe students working together and take a look on your future. Take a look on your future. Just make a reflection here. Whenever you go for a job interview, you're gonna be asked about, do you have experience in working in a group, in a team? And take a look on the beauty of the history that you're gonna tell. Yes, I worked between in partnership with in a group, GEPAD and ProTrigo, working with digital capabilities, with images, with drones, and my experience was that, and then I have the result of having this. Look, the beauty of having, totally smooth history for you to tell to the job interviewer. So take that opportunity with you. So maybe many times I think about myself, my group here. I work for ProTrigo, and I don't want to know about the other groups here. To be honest, guy, don't do that for yourselves. Think broader. Open your mind for the opportunities that you have inside the university. The third point here, I would like to write down here the words growth mindset. This is the first time that I'm talking about mindset, but mindset is something very, very difficult to talk about. So instead of writing here growth mindset, I prefer here to write foresight and creativity. So what I mean, for me, especially for those of you that wants to make a career inside a company, you need to think, you need to be innovative, you need to be agile because there are many people around. You have many, many opportunities around yourself. So you need to be innovative, you need to be agile, you need to think ahead of the time. You need to create the future. Remember what I said about intelligence, adaptability, and leadership. Bring to this reality here. So it's a growth mindset, you know, solving the problems in the present, solving the problems that will come in the future. Think ahead of the time, you know, think ahead of the time. And the last one here, but not the least, I would not I could not lose the opportunity to talk about communication. There are many examples here about communication. Communication is not what I'm saying, is not what Jose is saying on this presentation. Communication is what you guys are understanding from what I'm saying. This, for me, it's a perfect example of communication. So we can take a look inside again the media, social medias here, LinkedIn, Instagram, especially LinkedIn here, and we can see many times about the we have a very clear strategic planning. We have a very clear objective, but many times we cannot reach the results. And what's the point? What's the problem between having a very good planning and not reaching the goals, reaching the results? It's about communication. Many times we have problems in terms of communication in the middle of our processes. The first time, the first time that I had to know that I have a very bad communication was when I was starting to work in Fundação Mato Grosso, and we had over there a 360 feedback. And at that time, I thought that I were a very good communicator. I went through a bachelor degree, a master degree, a doctorate degree, so I'm good in communication, right? I did many presentations, and I took a look at the paper of 360 feedback. It was wrote over there many times. Communication, communication, communication. So back at that time, I started to think about communication. And again, the definition is not what I'm saying here, is what you understand from what I'm saying. Think about your teams, think about the future that you're gonna be managing groups of people. So you need to have a clear communication because if you don't communicate yourself very well, you're gonna struggle. You're gonna have many problems. And for those of you who doesn't like to study, to learn, I will tell you something that maybe it's boring for you. The life, it's a long learning. This is the key image for the companies today. You know, lifelong learning. And the image itself reflects what I'm saying here. So don't think that you're gonna finish your PhD, you're gonna start to work in a company, in a job, whatever. You're gonna need to study, you're gonna need to learn, you're gonna need to develop new skills. So you're gonna need at least whenever you want to develop yourself, to be ahead of the time, to think, because we are seeing here the technologies, the tools, the methodologies, they are changing and they will keep changing in the future ahead. So we're going to need keep studying, keep learning, keep developing the technology itself. So this is the future. This is the future. We're going to keep going in this journey of lifelong learning. And with that, I finish my presentation. Again, it's a very nice theme to talk about. I tried my best to cover the key pillars, the key objects of the presentation. Thanks, Professor Raquel. Thanks all the members of GCIA, Marina and Alexandre for all the support here. And I will handle back to the guys of GCIA here.
Thank you, Professor, for this amazing presentation. Marina, you can go ahead.
Gostaria, então, de agradecer ao professor José Maria Vilela pela brilhante apresentação e gostaríamos de convidar, então, o membro do GCIA, Alexandre Dias, para realizar a moderação das perguntas.
So, thank you, Professor, for this amazing presentation. It was great for us to learn about that. My question is, what do you think the skills the professional need for get a good position beyond the hard skill? What do you think about the soft skill? How you say about the self discipline, the leadership? What do you think about the another soft skill the professional need for get a good job?
All right, can you listen to me, Alexandre?
Sure.
Is it okay? Well, from my perspective, Alexandre, we have a very big list in terms of skills that you're gonna need to meet the demands of the future. One of the important points that I will talk here, it's about listen, observe, understanding, and nurture foresights. So what I mean by that, it's really thinking in what we are doing, what we are seeing in around ourselves. So, what are the gaps? What are the opportunities that we are going through ourselves? It's not only about a problem itself, solving a problem in our lives, but it's also about the opportunities that I talked before in terms of developing the skills and meeting the qualifications that we want to improve in ourselves. Always thinking about our future. So, what do I want to be in the future? So, maybe this question for me, as I said before, is crucial for defining what kind of skills do we will need to develop for the near future.
Okay. Um, for the next question is from Julia. We wait 1 second for the question will be in the screen. Okay, Julia say, what think what thinks the new technology are not in reality for everybody? Do you think that eventually the small producer will have access to this technology on this never will gonna become reality for them?
All right. Thanks, Julia, for the question. This is a big discussion that we're going to during all the presentations that we talk about innovation and this new Ag 4.0. If we take a look on the key priorities of Bayer, for example, uh, they have at least three key priorities, and one of the priorities of them is taking the digital, is taking this new technology for the small scale farmers. We know that the investments maybe is something that plays again uh, plays contra.
Okay,
We know that the resource may be a problem for the small scale farmers, and then this is something that we need to think a lot. But as I showed in the presentation, maybe we can see some small points, small technologies as the DocuSign that is used by Souza Cruz that is trying to overcome those points. So again, it's a big challenge. The return on investment is something that we need to point here, but I'm sure that there are many, many people thinking about that.
okay. For next question is from Marina. Um, we can wait 1 second for the question will be in the screen. Oh, Luciana says, um, how can I highlight my skills developed during the master and PhD degrees for private company? Maybe when they just know was as the personal without field experience and without commercial experience? It's a good question.
Yeah, thank you, Luciana. Really, it's a good question. So, what is the definition of experience itself? It's whenever we go through a process, we go through this process, we take a look on the process, we have that experience, and we start to thinking critically about that process. So the point is, how can we be better the next time that we go through that process? It's about learning. It's about learning, and it's about having this critical thinking. So many times we have been through some experience inside the university. So the point here is the question for me, the biggest question for me, it's about how can we tell a high story for job interviewer, proving that we have that experience. So how can I tell a very smooth, no round history for the interviewer that I can prove that he can understand, remember communication, that he can understand, she can understand that I'm really had that experience on that specific thing. For me, the answer for that question starts with that point. So think about what you're gonna say to really prove, because it's everything about trust. Whenever you start talking in a job interview, it's about trust. So you need to, it's a kind of, play flowers, through flowers, to exemplify what you are saying. So this is something that for me that it's a very differential for a job interview.
Okay, for the next question is from Everton Rezende. Everton Rezende said, congratulations for great talking, Professor José Maria. Talking into account your experience in the private and public sector. What are most important skills for the professional in the both sectors?
All right, thank you, Everton. I thought that we have talked before, and you could not make difficult questions for me, right, Everton? Okay, this is again a very important and very interesting question. My comparison between the public and private sector, it's something that for me it's a kind of frustrating. All right, because whenever we go through some project that we're gonna apply for a project in the public sector, especially, we are evaluated by what we did in the past. This is for me something that it's very frustrating. And inside the company, you're gonna be evaluated by what is the potential of your future. What's the potential of the project that you have and what the project is gonna deploy in the future. Of course, in the public sector, you are evaluated also by your project, but you are evaluated much more by your past. So thinking about that again, Everton, for me, this innovative and agile mindset, to have a purpose, to to foresee what's going to happen in the future, to have creativity. For me, thinking about a company, a private company, these are really the key aspects, the key skills for you to improve and also to move forward in your career. And inside the university, it's much as we already discussed here. It's much more about experience. It's much more about technical side. For me, this is a big reality whenever this change that I did from private to public sector. Don't know if I answered your question, Everton.
Okay, Professor. The next question is from the Professor Raquel Pires. She say there are numerous of advances of digital transformation in your daily life. In your opinion, what you would be the limitation of the use introduction of these digital tools things in the agribusiness?
All right. Thank you, Professor Raquel, for the question. Um, well, the number one, it's about connectivity. I mean, if you we have 50% of the farmers nowadays in Brazil that have access to internet and access internet at least one time per day. But we still having at least 25%, 25 to 30% of the farmers that have access to internet. So we still have a big gap to comply in terms of having all this connectivity. This is the number one. And the second point, we are talking about machines, right? We're talking about automation. We talked about the new technologies, but behind the technology, it's a human. This is what I wanted to highlight. So everything is controlled by a human. We're gonna we're gonna go through the same problems. We're gonna break the machines. We're gonna break the tractors. We're gonna need mechanics. We're gonna need the agronomists to be following and make the management of the crops. Being digital or not, you're gonna need the figure of the human itself. So this for me, it's not a limitation, but it's a reality, and this is why I think especially the students, the PhD students, the agronomy students should at least learn a lot about these new technologies, have experience with that to overcome these barriers to be ahead of the time and to really to make it happen in the near future. We have many other challenges about the scale of the farmers that we discussed before, how much is going to be the adoption itself, and one of the also the big discussion it's about the connectivity or how can we integrate everything together because until now we have softwares, we have machines, we have tools that they do not communicate each other. So at least the companies they are trying not to communicate and integrate itself because they at least they see that as a risk for themselves. So I think in the near future, this needs to change. We're gonna need to integrate everything. Everything needs to talk to everything. So it's a completely integration for a farm itself. Now, let's talk about agriculture. Don't know if I answered the question, Alexandre.
For sure. Professor, for the last one, because of the time, Julia Passos says, what do you think about the machines substituting the man? How is gonna be in the future? Jobs that are labor market for activities being performed by the robot. It's a great question.
Yes, also we just have very good questions tonight here. Very interesting. Yeah. Julia, again, thanks for the question. Uh, as I showed in the presentation, I think that technical jobs they will not be substituted by robots. We're gonna need still gonna need to have agronomists take the decision, making the decisions, evaluating the numbers, doing the analytics itself. So this for me that's no replace in terms of the figure of agronomist. But the agronomists need to follow the future demands, right? But there are many jobs inside the farmer that probably it's going to be replaced. As we talked before, maybe we're going to have the driver of the machine, the operator of the machines, of the tractors itself. Maybe we're going to have some other jobs as well, so some other functions. And whenever we're inside the private company, uh, the saying was like, if you start to think about your job being replaced, it's that you are in completely damaged. You are in completely problem. So think ahead of the time. You need to be ahead of the time. Don't take yourself. to a gap, to a problem. Think ahead of the time. What's going to be the next evolution, the next revolution? So how I will not be overcome by robots or automation. So think about that. I think we need to think a lot about being replaced in terms of our functions here.
Thanks, Professor, for your amazing presentation and answer this question. And now we finish this presentation because of the time. Another question we will answer by the email from Gia. We send for you. You, if it's possible, you send for back for us for the answer of the people ask to us. More one time, thanks, Professor. Would you like to say some things?
Again, Alexandre, thank you very much. Thank you, Jessia, for the invitation. It was a really good time for me during the preparation of this presentation. Just to reinforce, this is my view of all these topics here, all right? So take what's good for you, maybe something that you do not agree. Just if you want to speak with me, I'm totally open. And uh, I'm waiting for the trainee, inside GSIA, so I can candidate myself to be part of GSIA because it's a very interesting group. I have been following you through the media, social medias, and it's a really pleasure to be here with you tonight. Thank you, Alexandre. Thank you, Professor Raquel. Thank you, Marina, all the members of GSIA. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor. You will be the welcome for your group. Now, we will pass for the Marina.
Encerrando então o nosso tempo de perguntas, gostaríamos de agradecer mais uma vez aos nossos parceiros, a VMLI Escola de Inglês, a Escola de Aviação Aeroclube de Lavras e a MyCoff Lab, consultoria pós-colheita e qualidade de café. Agora, como prometido, vamos fazer o nosso sorteio para um voo panorâmico sobre a cidade de Lavras, agradecendo mais uma vez a participação de todos no nosso evento. Será sorteada, então, uma pessoa que poderá levar 2 acompanhantes para participar desse voo panorâmico. A data deverá ser combinada com a coordenação do evento e aos sorteados. Antes da gente anunciar o ganhador, só para a gente falar um pouquinho sobre o Aeroclube de Lavras. O Aeroclube de Lavras tem mais de 70 anos de história e é uma escola com o objetivo do ensino da prática da aviação civil, do turismo e do desporto. Hoje, conta com 8 aeronaves, 5 cursos de formação prática de piloto e uma estrutura completa que tem recebido alunos de diversas partes do Brasil que querem se tornar aviadores. O Aeroclube conta também com a atividade de voos panorâmicos para aqueles que querem conhecer um pouco mais da região através de uma nova perspectiva. As visitas à escola acontecem todos os dias, sendo aos sábados e domingos a partir das 15 horas, para melhor vislumbre do pôr do sol. Para mais informações, sigam o Instagram do Aeroclube, @voelavras. Vamos torcer, pessoal, para ver quem será o sortudo que vai ganhar esse voo panorâmico sobre a cidade de Lavras. Lembrando que o sortudo vai poder levar 2 acompanhantes para participar com ele desse voo. Parabéns a Ana Maria Pereira Ribeiro. Pedimos que entre em contato conosco imediatamente para agendarmos o dia e horário que melhor atenda a todos. Mais uma vez, parabéns. Lembrando que amanhã, dia 15 de setembro, através do nosso perfil do Instagram, o @gciaufla, será sorteado um delicioso café especial da MyCoff Lab, que é um local de microtorrefação de cafés especiais, localizado na rua Saturnino de Pada, 193, no centro de Lavras. Além dos deliciosos cafés, a MyCoff Lab oferece também consultoria em pós-colheita e qualidade do café. Ela também realiza emissão de laudos sensoriais, desenvolvimento de perfis de torra de cafés especiais, cursos e treinamentos. Vale a pena conferir. Fiquem atentos ao nosso perfil do Instagram, então, para ver esse sorteio. Quem sabe, se você ainda não ganhou nenhum sorteio nosso, amanhã você pode ser o sortudo ou a sortuda ganhador desse delicioso café especial da MyCoff Lab. Bom, Então, para encerrarmos o nosso evento, gostaríamos de agradecer mais uma vez aos nossos patrocinadores e colaboradores e aos nossos palestrantes dos 2 dias, os professores Antônio Chalfun Júnior e José Maria Vilela, pela disponibilidade e conhecimento compartilhado. E a todos vocês pela presença e companhia até agora. Desejamos a todos uma boa noite e dizemos que o GC está à disposição de vocês através do nosso Instagram e no nosso e-mail. Lembrando que nós também temos a rede social LinkedIn. Se puder, nos siga lá também, que tem muitos conteúdos interessantes. Tenham todos uma boa noite e muito obrigada